Hello everyone, it's Lynn. Welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to participate in Sophie over at Midwest Magician's tag. I think it's called Witchcraft Ins Outs, okay? Basically the premise is giving us some things, let's give out some things that are in for us going forward and some things that are out for us going forward in witchcraft, in like our witchcraft practices. So thought about it for a little while because the tag has been out for a little while. And so I think I got some, I think I pinpointed it down. Okay, the first one that I wrote down was making more in-depth witchcraft content. Okay, there was a recent video by Justin over at the Witch of Enchantment who said that, there's so many content creators out there that are too afraid to share their like physical practices. They're too worried about getting gatekeeped. They're too worried about the stigma behind certain practices, especially with deity work and stuff like that. And I've hit on this before. I posted a Baba Yaga video and I was building an energetic temple for her and I was taking y'all along with me. And I got some people in those comments that were like, basically saying, how dare you worship a Slavic deity that eats children? Like, why would anyone worship blah, blah, blah. Anyway, on and on and on, you get people that aren't going to understand where you're coming from. Even if you try to share, and in that video, I may have not said the reason why I work with Baba Yaga, but working with her in a way that feels like she's not a deity. She's more of a spirit that I work with, a spirit that I interact with, and that it expands me in a lot of ways. And so there's a lot of nuance with a lot of the practices that witches would have, but I don't want to have any more fear. I don't want to have any more fear. I had to put that one comment in their place, and be like, look, I don't owe you a damn explanation, but here you go. Here's a little bit of one to shut you up, kind of a thing. Didn't even owe them that. But I need to stop being afraid because we're so afraid. I feel like we're so afraid now to share, to overshare, like, oh, well, this doesn't look like everybody else's practice, so I'm just not going to share that, But I want to get out of that. I want to be able to share more about my specific practice. So I think that going forward, I want to try to incorporate a lot of, oh, I should turn the camera on and share a little bit about this because it's kind of cool. And if it inspires someone to get creative and stuff, then that's good. So no more content creating fear. And I think that was an in and an out. What's in is maybe making them more in-depth content, but the out of it is like no more fear. I don't want to be fearful anymore about the content that I create. Another in is I've been working on my beliefs. Okay, just rehoning. This just means that I'm really a note taker in terms of this kind of stuff anyway, but I really want to get in depth in myself on what my beliefs are and not be so rigid about it, but just get them on paper, just get them on paper, get them out of my brain and see how it feels and looks to me. So, and I've already kind of been working on that because I made a short video about that recently, about my beliefs and how they kind of breathe. So if you're interested, I'll leave that below. Now, my next out is thinking that inactivity within my witchcraft is not okay. That's out. Okay? Passive witchcraft is still witchcraft. Just because I don't do a lot of spells, just because I don't pull a lot of herbs in the winter, the fact is that if I'm not active every day, every week, whatever, in my craft, and then I beat myself up about it not being a craft anymore, a practice anymore, because I'm not practicing anything for, let's say I'll go a long time without it. It's still witchcraft. Witchcraft for me is different than most people think. So anyway, so passive witchcraft is still witchcraft, and that is out. The thinking that I have to be constantly on my guard and constantly doing. that kind of ties into the next one. Another out for me is buying stuff. Okay, I had gotten into this thing where, again, like my herbs, and I'm looking at them up there because I had put them in a new place. I had gotten to this place where I was like, oh, I need this, oh, I need that. You know, I think one of the ones I needed was angelica root, and then the other one was juniper. Both of those don't grow where I live, so I'm like, so I'd have to buy them, right? Now, I'm not against buying things, you know, it's like I will, but I need to start getting, I want to get out of the mindset that I have to, that this and this and this won't work without blank, you know? I've got to get out of that. And I've never really bought things specifically for things before in my witchcraft, but I do get into cycles where I'm like, oh, you know, I really want that, or I really want that. And it just, this particular spell that I made, or this particular charm that I made just won't work. It just won't have enough zhuzh without blank. And so I think that I want to get better about getting out of the habit of buying things and using what I have, as cliche as that sounds. Another in, let's see, an in for me is I want to do some nature law work and universal law work. When you research magic, okay, magic in antiquity, magic in the Middle Ages, magic, you know, in the timeline, when you research magic, there was so much about the sorcerers and the ones that would utilize herb magic and the ones that were doing necromancy, okay? Those were the magic users, the ones that work with spirits and the dead and herbs and stuff like that. They had like the pharmakeia, right? But when you research it, a lot of the time it comes up that these magic practitioners weren't going against natural law. Magic doesn't go against natural law. Now that might sound like, yeah, duh, to most of you, but I think it's important. And it was like one of those things that I needed to put in a grimoire somewhere. What actually are the natural laws? You know, like when I think of weather magic, I think, okay, conjuring a storm in the middle of your heat wave, or conjuring a storm in the middle of a drought, you know, what is that going to do in terms of weather patterns, right? Is it going to be detrimental? Is it going to fizzle out? Like, there are natural laws at place in terms of our weather, in terms of how the world spins, or how the earth spins, how humans relate to the animal kingdom. There are natural laws. Anyway, I want to research some of those for my grimoire, because I think that it's important to know the laws and the universal ones. Like, we, you know, go up to the macrocosm, okay? But I want to work with the natural laws a little bit and see what comes up. Because once I know the natural laws, I'm like, okay, this is the limit. This is a limit of my magic. And I think that that's kind of important, to be honest with you, which we'll get into, like the whole my magic thing. We'll get into that later. My next out is kind of a doozy, okay? And this is about, like, specifically gatekeeping online, really. There's so many people that I follow that say something like, a witch doesn't have to do magic. And a magic practitioner doesn't have to be a witch. Like, we get that. But you didn't answer what you actually thought magic was, what you actually thought magical practitioners do that's different than witches, and what you actually think, if you don't consider yourself a witch, you consider yourself a magical practitioner. You didn't tell us what you consider a witch to be, right? I consider a magician and a witch to be labels, okay? And I understand that magic users are the umbrella, and then witches have this kind of practice craft thing about them, right? I've made extensive videos about this, but it drives me nuts how people think that they can differentiate it without differentiating. So I'm kind of done listening to these folks, to be honest with you. I'm done listening to the gatekeepers that want to tell you what magic is, or no, they want to tell you like, stop saying this, stop saying that, stop saying this, stop saying that, without actually saying anything them damn selves. Like, okay, what do you think? You haven't actually said. You just said what not to do. You didn't actually say why. So, I don't know. It's, I guess, another discernment thing. I think the fact that it's an out for me is I don't want to be giving off vague impressions of things. I want to be able and be conscientious enough to give a succinct answer that's valid to me, that could potentially, hopefully, make sense to someone else, without gatekeeping, without any dogma, with respect, with dignity. That's it. I thought there was a third thing there. There was gonna be. But anyway, now I've always been kind of, I'm gonna do what I want anyway, but I think it gets to me because I'm one of those people that wants to define in a succinct way, like for the masses, just put some kind of blanket statement down, and then it never really works out. You're always going to get somebody out there that makes these vague statements. I don't want to be one of those people. I think that's my whole point. I talked forever about that one. I had gotten good about what I'll call creative witchcraft, which is just like my play, right? I think an N for me, seriously, is to get back to that. Because I had come up with some ideas for witchcraft that, like, when I was working with specific elements, like for air, I was using bubbles, like kids' bubbles, and I was using paper airplanes, okay? Because at the time, my boys were young, and we would do those kinds of things anyway. So I was utilizing them in my own magic because they were sitting around my house. There were things I had, and I wasn't going and looking for them. They were like in the play room, in the play jar, whatever, right? They were just like readily available, and I was making it and then using them intentionally for my work. And I want to get back to that so bad. So I think that I want to come up with some more innovative ideas for witchcraft and how I can incorporate this kind of creative play. So that's definitely an in. I think it's my last out. Let me read this. My last out. Oh, hard witchcraft. Hard witchcraft is that, again, kind of going along with sacred play. This witchcraft out is about, I can fuck around and find out. If I don't believe in something, it's not going to touch me. I don't care what anyone says. If I want to do something, if I want to go and do this real elaborate thing in my witchcraft practice, or a one-time thing, okay? If I want to have a one-night stand with this witchcraft practice and then never do it again, I'm not worried about something coming after me or this or that, because if I don't believe in this or that, it's not coming after me. I don't care what anyone says. So I'm out of not wanting to do that kind of stuff. You know, I want to see where my limits are. This is all about my limits, right? Like my craft's limits. And if I wanted to do something and that everyone seems to think, oh, you really can't do that without this many years of experience, or you can't do that because it requires this, this, and this, and this. No, because the 3 out of the 5 things you said don't even apply to me. Sorry. They just don't. So, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to say. That's just it. So I'm out gearing the practice that I have on the fear-mongering that people could be giving me, you know, about it. It's all about how I feel. I'm a witch for my intuition and for my instincts. You know, it's coming from my heart. My witchcraft is coming from my body, my mind, my heart, and my soul. And if I don't feel right in the moment, or if I don't feel right afterwards, there are steps that I take and before, okay? And it's like, okay, there's foundational things that I have that will work in my favor, okay? But other than that, like, I'm out of giving a fuck about staying in the easy witchcraft lane. So I think that's what I wanted to say on that. I need to get back to my witchcraft roots, okay? There were things I did in the beginning when I was a witch before I was a YouTube witch. Okay. And again, I have foundational practices that I utilize that I would never get rid of, probably, because they're my foundations. My roots back in the day was autonomy and identity. Okay, I was a witch because I wanted a life that was mine, and I wanted to make up this kind of life that was geared towards my morals and values and my rules. Okay, and it gave me a sense of autonomy. It gave me a sense of freedom to be a witch, to identify that way. And so I turned the label itself into this autonomous label and identity for myself. And I need to somehow get back to that. Like I said, so many of these are about other people and what they say, and how you get in these social media loops and these Reddit loops. You get in these like constant loops where you're like, this person said this. Oh, this person said this. And they're all kind of on the same page. Why am I not on the same page? It's like, no. Let's get back to this. My witchcraft isn't about this, and it's not about this. It's about this. Okay. And as self-serving as that sounds, it's going to benefit my practice and henceforth anyone that watches my witchcraft content in the future. I choose, like I said, going back to my witchcraft roots is about my witchcraft being a lifestyle. I'm just living it. I'm just living a witch. I'm just the living witch right here. You know, this is me. This is the living witch. And it's just like embodying that moving forward. More. I want to be the more living witch than I have been. So, okay. And I found this quote on, when I was looking up something else, and this quote came up, and I actually read this book, so it was really good. By Sylvia Townsend Warner from the book Lolly Willows. It was a really good book, okay? But anyway, she says this in this book. One doesn't become a witch to run around being harmful or to run around being helpful, a distinct visitor on a broomstick. It is to escape all of that. It is to have a life of one's own, not an existence doled out by others. Okay, now here's why this quote is so important for this tag. No matter what ends or what's in and what's out, getting back to my witchcraft roots is going to help my witchcraft practice, inevitably. But it's about like, yeah, one doesn't become a witch to be harmful or helpful. All right? But it's the ability to be both. I have the ability to be harmful, and I have the ability and the capability to be both harmful and helpful. Whatever I choose is whatever I choose, right? It's about the autonomy. At this stage in my life, it's more about being a witch in existence, you know? So, like, I have the ability, but I don't always have to put it out there. Doesn't make me any less of a witch. That was it. Those were my ins and outs. I hope that was, I hope this was fun. Kind of rambled a little bit, but I brought it back around, okay? I want to thank Sophie for the tag. Please check out the tag. I think she's got a playlist on her channel now where you can go and look up all the tags and their responses and get some new channels, you know, subscribe to some new channels if you haven't. And let's just, you know, band together under what we're not doing, what we're not going to put up with, and what we really need to start putting up with, and what we need to start incorporating. So, hope everyone is having a magical day. Much love.